Hey y'all, welcome back to Carly's Creations. I'm Carly, and today we're going to work on some feather earrings. These are really fun. I think really more fun now that fall is coming up. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what we're going to use like always, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So this is our earring mold. These are available on my website. So each mold will create one pair of earrings. So that's the mold we're going to use. It is a silicone mold, super easy for epoxy and resin. So we're going to set that aside. And then we are going to use a new glitter that's just stunning. I just got it in. It's called Ladies Night, so I'm super excited to use that. I did use it on this little notebook cover here just because I wanted to see what it looked like with the epoxy. So it's really pretty. It's got a bunch of different color shifting holographic colors in it. It's got some little stars. It's got different shapes, and it's a really fun color. So that is also now available. That just released yesterday. So we are going to use that today. All right, so I have my epoxy here, and I'm actually going to mix it for you guys because I've had a lot of questions lately as far as ratios and mixing it and how I mix it, things like that. So I thought I would just start from the beginning and show you. So normally for me, with jewelry, keychains, things like that, I will just use what's left over in my cup from making a cup. So whatever epoxy I have left over, then I just usually pour into a mold, make a keychain, earrings, whatever I have handy or whatever it is that I want to use. So, oops, sorry. So technically I don't really measure as far as the amounts to go in because it's just leftovers. But for today, I poured epoxy solely for the purpose of making these earrings. So a little side note, but in the long run, basically what I'm trying to get at is you don't really need a lot. So you can probably do the same. I think a lot of people do the same and just use their leftover because we're not going to throw it away, right? Right. Too expensive to throw away. So we have part A and part B in our cups here. So I pour the thicker part, which is this one right here, into the thinner mixture. And you want to make sure that you scrape everything that you can out of your cup. Most epoxies will be a 1-to-1 ratio. However, you do want to read on your bottle just to make sure. There are a few, I don't know the brands off the top of my head, that I have seen where it's like a 2-to-1 ratio. So just double check with your brand that you're using. I use the Art and Glow, which I'll link down below for you. I've used it for a year and a half now and have had really no major issues with it. So it seems to work really well for me. I did try, I tried one other brand. I think it was the Faux Rizzle brand, and I wasn't a fan of it. It was just really thick and really hard to work with. And so I just immediately went back to this one. So this is just my favorite one that I use. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? All right. So we're going to go ahead and set that aside. So we have our part A, and part B in here. So we're just going to go ahead and mix slowly. Make sure you're scraping all along the bottom and the edges and getting that mixed up really well. And you'll notice that it's cloudy. And as you mix, your mixture will become clear. And once it becomes clear, that means you have it mixed well enough. And a trick I have also learned is a lot of times, see all those bubbles in there? So bubbles aren't uncommon when it comes to epoxy. However, the little micro bubbles can be a royal pain, especially on a cup, things like that. It's just, sometimes they're just impossible to deal with. So what I have figured out and what I do is I let my epoxy sit for about 1 to 2 minutes, and I don't touch it, I don't stir it, I don't do anything crazy, and I let it sit. And I noticed that does help a lot with reducing bubbles. So as you can see, so it turned clear. Okay. So now that it's clear, I'm going to set it down and I'm just going to let it sit. And you'll notice, if you can see on camera, those bubbles will start to rise to the top and they're going to pop. So that's going to eliminate a lot of those micro bubbles in that cup just by letting it sit and just thicken up a little bit. So I'm going to let that sit and then we'll be right back to make our earrings. Okay, so we're back. It's been, you know, a minute or two, and we let that sit for a few minutes. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and add our glitter to our epoxy. So this is the ladies' night. It's so pretty, you guys. So pretty. So we're going to add a little bit in here. I add a little bit at a time. So I add a little bit, stir it up, and then add a little bit more. You don't want to add too much because you don't want your mixture to become so thick that it's hard to pour, but you don't want to add too little where it's transparent, unless you're trying for that look. So right now you can kind of see, oops, sorry, where you can kind of see it's a little bit still too transparent. So we're going to add a little bit more glitter. In the end, it's what you prefer. But I do like a little bit more of a solid look with my glitter there. So just make sure it's stirred up really well. Okay, and I'm even going to add just a touch more. All right, and that will be good. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and get our mold. Sorry about that, a kid found me. Okay, so we're going to get our mixture, and I'm going to use my popsicle stick, and I'm just going to drip right inside the mold. Sometimes, depending on the mold, you can just pour it in. With this one, being that it has, you know, these little creases here, I just find it better and cleaner, so to say, to just kind of drop that in. And you just want to make sure that you get all of your mold covered. As you add more of your mixture in, it will fill in these little holes right here. So I'm just going to drop a little bit right there, and it'll naturally, you can kind of see how it fills in those holes. Don't worry about if you get it on the edge. You can kind of see it dripped right here. Don't worry about that. It just pops right off. No worries. You're just going to keep adding until you get all of your molds full. Make sure you get right in those little pieces. See those little fine pieces right there, and you want to make sure that it's filled to the top. That way you get the thickness of the earring. And also, just a side note, to update those of you on our move, if you're in my group, you know this already, but I announced a while ago that we are taking a big leap and we're moving across the country. So next week we will hit the road. We are moving to Tennessee. So we're coming from California to Tennessee. So it is a big move for us. But I will not be closing down the website or my Etsy shop like I did in July. Everything will stay open and shipping will be as normal. I have everything packed up and organized and ready to go inventory wise. So just to let you guys know that there won't be any delay in that. And so you don't have to worry about any of that closing down again. I felt terrible having to do that in July, and I don't want to do that again. So it will still be open. Everything will be the same. There will be a short pause in custom orders for tumblers. Otherwise, the rest of the inventory will all ship as scheduled. And there might be a short delay on getting out another tutorial, but I promise as soon as we get there and settle in, it will start back up again. We are closing in on a house on October 2nd. So I'm super excited. I'm going to have my own office there, and it's going to be a lot better. So more room for more inventory. Yay, yay. and then we'll get to start shipping again. Filming again. Okay, so I'm just gonna hit my heat gun and I'm gonna get any of those little bubbles that reach the surface there. All right, and there we go. You do not want to use a torch with your molds. You will melt the mold and ruin the mold. So just a side note, do not use torch, use a heat gun. Last thing I want you guys to do is to melt your molds and ruin them. So don't do that. So make sure you use a heat gun on your molds. Torch is fine for tumblers, but not for molds. So we're gonna set this aside and then we're just gonna leave that and we're gonna let that cure. I'm gonna leave it until tomorrow. So I let it sit for 24 hours minimum before I pop that out of the mold. And then I have a set here that you can see what they look like when they're done. So they're really pretty. This is Weekend at Bernie's, which you can also find on my website. It's a purple, like a mint purple color shift. It's really pretty. And then all you would do is attach your earring hook to the very top and you have yourself a pair of feather earrings. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and if you are interested in making these for yourself, everything that you find here, aside from the heat gun and the epoxy, you can find on my website at carlyscreations.com. Don't forget to join us on Facebook at Carly's Creations, Tumblers, and more. We do lots of giveaways and tips and exclusive group codes and new product releases and things like that all in the group. So we hope to see you over there, and we'll see you on the next tutorial. Have a great day.